Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Ask the SCSA. My name is Steve. I'm one of the safety advisors with the SCSA, and joining me today are my fellow teammates, Kieran, Joanne, Adam, and Lori. I'll just let them do a brief introduction.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kieran. I'm a safety advisor out of the Saskatoon office, and I work with the regions east and west of Saskatoon.
Hi, my name is Joanne Davis, and I'm a safety advisor from the Regina office and with the regions Moose Jaw and Swift Current.
And my name's Adam Drummond, and I'm a trainer here at the SCSA.
Hello, my name is Lori Sins. I'm the program administrator at the SCSA, and the programs department covers CORE, C-CORE, NCSO, and HSA.
All right, thanks for joining, guys. Just a quick reminder to our viewers out there, if you're watching on Zoom, use the Q&A feature to submit your questions. If you're watching on Facebook, we do have one of our advisors monitoring there, and they will take those questions and forward them to our Q&A on Zoom. We are recording these, so if you're not able to stay for the whole thing, or if you want to see any of our past presentations or Ask the SCSAs, go to our Facebook or YouTube pages and you can watch them there. Now for our today's presentation, with the remote auditing now a reality, there is a greater need for companies to get their documents online and organized. To help us gain a better understanding is our very own Joanne Davis with her presentation, Digital Documentation Organization. Joanne?
Yeah, thank you, Steve. I'm going to share my screen and we'll start the presentation right away here. Okay, so here is our presentation on documentation organization. We're going to review the recommended way to organize your documentation digitally for the CORE and C-CORE programs. So the purpose of the presentation is to help companies that are CORE or C-CORE, whether you are not you're new to the program or you're a veteran and have been in the program for a while. And we want to help you organize your documentation digitally on your computers. We have currently moved to remote auditing and not doing them in person at this time, which does require you to have a digital copy of all your safety documentation. Having your documentation organized this way on your computer will help us moving forward with the audits. And whether or not we're doing them remotely or in person at a later date, we can review them digitally as well. And it also serves as a backup to your company. So hopefully your documentation does not look like this picture, and we're going to help get it organized in a nice orderly fashion here. So you're going to hear me mention FTP a few times in this presentation. This stands for a transfer protocol, file transfer protocol. This is a secure way to share documents. We use this when we conduct our remote audits. You will be uploading documents to the appropriate file in an FTP system to share with us so we can actually conduct the audit. So we are going to follow the same setup that we have the file set up in our side to mimic so you are prepared when it comes time to transfer those over. And this can be done way ahead of time before you even book your audit. So you don't spend 2 or 3 weeks constantly scanning and organizing. We can get this done way ahead of time. So let's take a look at the foundation, how we want this set up. You're going to want to set up your files for all your documentation. Now, that being said, not all the documents need to be individually uploaded. You can upload a few documents at a time, and I'll explain that in the next following slides as well. If you currently do use a system that actually digitally stores your documents, you don't need to upload them again. You just need to give us access to that system. For example, if you're using SiteDocs, we just need to be able to log in and take a look at your documents, and you would use these files to upload anything that's not already in that system. So number one, you're going to create a main file for your safety documentation. And then you're going to have a file for your manual, organizational chart, and program documentation, which we're going to get into. So the first one here is a safety manual. You should have a folder for that and have a signed copy. If it's not signed, you can upload the individual signed policies that need to be signed and store them in the following files that we'll go through as the presentation progresses. Remember, if you already have a digital copy stored in your management software, you don't need to do it again. We're trying to eliminate you having to upload multiple of the same documents. You also want to have a current copy of your organizational chart uploaded for us to see when it comes time to do the audit. So that you can leave a little bit closer in case there's changes in your organization. Next, we're going to get actually into the program documentation. You want to look at what files you want to create and store all the supporting documentation in that FTP. And this is going to mimic exactly what our FTP system looks like on our site, as well as the audit process. This should look familiar for those of you who have taken our courses. This is how it's set up. And we're going to take a closer look at each and every single one of these. So the first one is your health and safety policy. Quite simply, if you do not have a currently signed copy of your health and safety policy in your manual, just get it signed and upload it into this folder. If it's in your manual, you can leave this folder blank. The next one, number 2, hazard assessments. There is going to be quite a bit of documents in this one. You're going to store all your hazard assessments. So you're going to store, and you can set up subfolders in here as well. So you can have your field level. So that's the first one that you kind of see there, the SCSA hazard assessment. Your field level ones, you can have your pre-job milestone ones as well. You're going to want to have those uploaded. And how you organize them in this file is going to be completely up to you. So you can do it by week, by month. You can do it by job for the one whole job. It's going to be up to your company to organize them whichever way best suits your company, just as long as there's some kind of system to it while we're looking at it. And if your company is very large, the auditor, when it comes time to do your audit, will be contacting you, and they may do some block sampling, so you're not having to upload hundreds of them as well. But that's something that you would discuss later at the time of actually booking your audit. Also here, if you do not have a current and your latest critical task list, you're going to want to upload it here if it's not in your manual. In this section, you can also cover your subcontractors and have your program or policy that you have in place for them. If you do not use subcontractors, again, this can be, you don't have to worry about that. So now we're on to section 3, which is your safe work practices, which are your do's and don'ts general guidelines. When you open up this folder, you're going to find a subfolder, or you're going to want to create a subfolder for this one. And we have a safe review form for your safe work practices. So below that, just in the main folder, you can actually upload all your safe work practices. They can be individual, or you can see on the third one, I put there an example, safe work practices 1 to 10. So you can scan and have like 10 together, just as long as that they're labeled and there's some kind of order and they're there. They don't have to be individual. It can be a bunch together as well. And when you would click on the safe work practice review form folder, this is where you can store how you're going to actually document when those practices were developed and reviewed for your company. And this is only necessary if you don't have this information on the safe work practices themselves. So if you were documenting the review and everything on the practices themselves, then you don't necessarily need to have this form. Section 4, we're going to go to safe job procedures. This is your step-by-step on how to complete a job or task. And it's going to be organized exactly the same way as the practices that we just looked at. When you open up this folder, you're going to have your safe job procedures, as well as an extra folder to have your review forms for when they've been developed and reviewed. Again, you can do them individually as well as in a group. As you can see here, I do have, it looks like PDF versions. You can have PDF, Word, just something that would be, we'd be able to open would be good. And the next slide here is just another review form that can be stored in that folder. Okay, so next is company rules. We do want our rules keep us safe. Anyway, so we do have our Section 5 company rules. In here, you are going to find a subfolder as well when you click on here. Most likely, your manual will have your company rules in them. However, if you have a recently revised or signed copy, you can upload it in here as well as your disciplinary policy. Again, those are usually found in your manual. And there will be a folder that you want to add for examples of disciplinary action. So when it comes time to the audit, you're going to want to upload some examples of your disciplinary policy in use. So next, we are going to go to Section 6, Personal Protective Equipment. So in this folder, you're going to want to have a couple things. So you're going to have your inspections for your basic PPE that you have done with your workers. They're going to store them in here, and you're going to do them at the frequency stated in your policy. And then I have another folder here for specialized PPE inspection forms if you use it. So your harnesses and lanyards, respiratory protection, anything specialized, you can put those inspection forms here. You can also add and upload manufacturer's specifications for your PPE. So if it's not part of your manual and you got a new piece of equipment, feel free to scan the manufacturer's recommendations that came with that piece of PPE, and you can add it to this folder and then use it to train your staff. So next, preventative maintenance. Section 7. We're going to review the documents that can be stored in these files. The FTP does not have subfolders, but feel free to create them as your company needs. Depending on how many pieces of equipment and tools that you use that require maintenance, it can be quite extensive. You are going to want to have a current updated inventory of your equipment and tools required maintenance, as well as company vehicles, and including their serial numbers or some kind of numbering system as well. So like I said, it's going to vary on the type of work that your company does on how extensive this list is. And the picture here just shows some great examples of what would be included in your inventory. You're going to want to have your schedule for maintenance. So with every piece of equipment and tools required maintenance in vehicles, you're going to want to have a schedule that you've created as per the manufacturer's recommendations and any legislation that applies. So you're going to want to have that uploaded here as well as the records that the maintenance actually took place and any repairs that were done. Now remember, sometimes these documents do go to accounting, so make sure to keep a copy and scan it in here for your maintenance records. Folder number 8, training and communication. This is also a quite complex section. It's quite large, and it does have, we do suggest that you have 6 subfolders in this area. We're going to look at each one of them as well. So as you can see, we have orientation, safety meetings, subcontractor trainings and certs, toolbox talks, training certificates, and a training matrix. So let's take a closer look at each one of these. You're going to want to keep a copy of everyone's orientation in this folder, not just the new hires from the last 6 months for your baseline or year for external audits, but you want to keep a copy of everyone's orientation records. The next folder here is your safety meetings. This is where you're going to keep copies of your company-wide safety meetings, and the frequency again is something that would be in your policy, but this is where they're going to be stored. Also in this section, we have your subcontractor training and certifications. So if you do use subcontractors, you want to verify their training and certs before having them on your site and doing work. And so this is where you can store those. Toolbox talks is next. You want to keep your crew specific toolbox talks here. And how you organize these is going to be completely up to you. Just have them in order to organize them by month, job, and so forth. Just as long as there's some kind of system that we can see that they're being done as your policy states. You can have a file here for training and certificates where you can upload copies of all the training certificates for your employees. And again, if you are a very large company, what's going to happen is that the auditor could talk to you about which training certificates he's going to want to see. And a lot of times that's going to coincide with the next slide here, the training matrix. Obviously, this one's not specific to construction, but if you have a training matrix showing all the training, if you have a very large company, again, the auditor at that time may ask for specific people and to actually see the documentation certificates for specific training, just to cross-reference everything. So again, that can be decided at that time. Smaller companies, just upload all the certificates and that'll be fine. So section 9 is inspections. So when we're talking about inspections in this, we're talking about your job site inspections, your office inspections, yard inspections, and shop inspections. So just keep all the records of all those types of inspections in this folder. Section 10, incident investigations and reports. In this folder, you're going to keep your incident reports as well as their investigations. Don't forget about your near-miss report investigations. Sometimes when we say incident, people just think about accidents that have occurred. Don't forget about your near misses and have them in there as well. Folder number 11, emergency preparedness. Again, a lot of these are going to be found in your manual, such as weather emergencies and so forth. Another one is electrical, to come in contact with an electrical conductor emergency plan. This one is a must-have for electrical companies. A lot of times that's going to be found in their manual. Some other ones are fire emergency plan, first aid emergency plan, wild animal emergency plan. So even though these are going to be found in your manual, you can upload your site-specific plans when you're going to site and you're actually creating that plan, where the nearest hospital is, what numbers to call, and so forth. Upload them here, the ones that you actually fill out for your job specifics. There is going to be a couple subfolders in here when you click on this folder. Fire drills and other emergency testing. So you are required to have fire drills by legislation. So keep a copy of your drill here and any other emergency testing that you might do. You might do first aid, man down, emergency testing, and seeing how you can improve your reaction times to that. So just keep a record of that here, as well as fire extinguishers inspections. You can upload the most recent filled out copy here. In this section as well, I have included COVID-19, just because we do have quite a bit of documentation related to that. By now, your company should have implemented a COVID-19 plan. If not, check out the website. You can also contact an advisor who will give you a hand. You can create a subfolder for all your specific documentations here, such as emergency preparedness, if they're not included elsewhere. Some people have included some of their processes for COVID-19 and hazardous assessments and inspections, so they can go there as well. Some examples of documents are as followed, but not limited to. You can have your health questionnaires, your sanitization checklists, your pre-screening for service calls, vehicle sharing policy, exposure control plan, and your pandemic policy or procedure can go here. It's a great way to store all of this documentation concerning COVID-19. So folder number 12 is regarding stats and records. And it will have 4 subfolders. So you want to keep your first aid treatment records here, as well as calculate your frequency and severity, and your monthly, quarterly, yearly safety activity summaries, and as well as your year-to-year trends and analysis. If you have any questions on these, feel free to contact an advisor. We can give you a hand with that, but you should be keeping stats and records for your company and have them organized. So you take a look at them and see what's happening, identify trends and so forth. So the next file here is called legislation. So this file you can use to upload some important pieces of legislation that you can use to train your workers if they're not included in your manual. An example of this could be dangerous occurrence, section 9. We have a toolbox talk on that. Maybe you downloaded it, you trained your workers. You don't necessarily have to put it in your manual, but you can go ahead and put it in this legislation section. You do not need to include a copy of the legislation. We do have that on hand, so you don't need to upload a big file. This is just for any extras that you may want to put there and have a quick at hand for training your employees. Many times this folder could be empty as well if it's all in your manual. Section 14 is harassment policy. Again, this is usually in your manual. However, maybe you've just recently updated or signed it again. You can put that here if it's not in the current manual that you've uploaded. Section 15, occupational health and safety. In this section, you want to keep your occupational health and safety committee minutes or your health and safety representative and employer meeting minutes for your company, for companies that have 5 to 9 total. So depending on the size of your company, whether you're going to have the committee or the representative, either way, this is where you want to keep your minutes and possibly agendas. Just upload them and keep them in there. You're supposed to be having them quarterly. So that was a review of all the files to organize all your documentation when it comes to your health and safety system. Again, this is how we suggest you organize them going forward. You can start to upload and store your documents digitally anytime. You don't need to wait till you're actually booked for an audit, and we can give you a hand in organizing that as well. One thing to remember with that file transfer protocol system, if you are booked for an audit and you're getting ready for it, once you upload files in the system, you can't go in the system and actually change them and do some revisions while they're in the system. Once they're uploaded, they're there. And once they're transferred to us, you can't take them back out. So if you uploaded the wrong one or need to make a change, you would have to upload a second one. So it's a lot easier to have everything organized first and then upload it. And that way there's no confusion. So on your computer system, you can have it organized and you can do your revisions there. But when it comes to the FTP system, once it's uploaded into that system and we have access to it, you won't be able to change it or remove files. You can only add them. So I'm hoping that this helped clarify where to put what documents. I know we may have a few questions that we can answer after this presentation. There may be a couple areas I missed, but that is our presentation on document organization.
All right, thanks, Joanne. Very good understanding of it, to where to put your files. And I think it's worth repeating. Joanne repeated it several times at the end, but once you put them on the FTP site, there's no changing it. So again, just get them organized on your own computer, which you kind of want to do anyways. So, you know, like if you need to verify something later, you have them on your computer and they're organized very well. Once you have them organized, whether it's before you decide to start with your remote audit stuff, like, you know, start uploading, it's easier than big file folders nowadays anyway. So, and then once you have that and you know you're all organized, then start uploading. That's kind of the last process in that step. And then you won't be going like, whoops, I should have done this sort of thing. And it gives you a chance as you're doing it to remember what should have went where. So again, thanks, Joanne.
Yeah, I can add something too. I didn't mention that some companies do have their documents organized, let's say for the month. They have all their meetings, all their hazard assessments, everything by month or by job, and they're all stapled together and organized. You can actually scan them in that way. Just make sure that they're labeled, and the auditor will realize everything is together, and I guess just put them in hazard assessment, labeled that way. This is documentation for this month. So it doesn't mean that it actually has to be completely that way, 100%. We're not asking people to rip apart their documents. But if you're just starting and you don't have anything organized, this is a great way to organize it, and it'll be seamless and a lot easier for you when it comes time to that audit time.
Right, that's another good point. Like this file folder that we have set up is just to help you get your stuff over, remind you of the categories that need to be done. And then, you know, you can think of the subfolder idea even below hazard assessments. Yeah, you could have more than one site. You have 3 sites going and an office going. You know, it's important that if the auditors can't find it, that you can show them where it is basically it. There's no perfect system for how you organize, other than what works best for you and your company to easily find stuff. And then the auditors, yeah, the easier it is for them to access, the faster that your audit can get done. But they had minimal need you to be able to show them anything that they can't find. So now I guess with that, let's start getting to some of these questions we got going on here. So do I have to upload all my subcontractors' documents as well?
I can address that. Like I said, you want to make sure you have your program and policy, and we don't necessarily need access to the contracts that you have with your subcontractors, but anything related to them with their hazard assessment, their PPE inspections, their participation in your safety meetings and toolbox, as well as orientation. So you're going to want to make sure, like we went through those folders, that you actually include all of the health and safety documentation related to your subcontractors.
Right. Yeah. So it's kind of like the rest of your program when it comes to the auditing. They're going to be part of your interview process as workers. So they are a part of your safety program. So if they're doing their own toolbox meetings in one area, you have to think of that as kind of part of your crew doing a toolbox meeting in that area. So when it comes to their safety program, and you've hired them, that's essentially your safety program, and our auditors are going to need access to not only your subcontractors for interviews, but to know that they're actually doing hazard assessments and stuff as well. All right, next question. What if we don't have any examples of discipline? My guys are all good.
I can answer this one, Steve. The idea behind progressive discipline isn't to punish people necessarily. It's to let them know that there's room to grow in certain areas. And potentially when they do contradict or conflict with the policy or procedure, that you have something to go forward with them. More often than not, a company will have meetings with the person or tell them certain things that they're not doing, and potentially those can be written as a disciplinary action. So most companies do these things. It's just a matter of actually documenting it in that sense of the word.
I can also comment on that. And there's also been companies that have been audited and that did not necessarily have examples of disciplinary. And so they may lose whatever mark, one or two marks that's for that section. And if you don't have one, you take the chance that you're going to lose a couple marks, but that usually does not make or break a company when they're going for core. So, you know, try to discipline your employees, the disciplinary policy, and doing that, you know, whether it be a verbal or written write-up, and do the corrective measures when it comes to health and safety rules. But no need to panic if you don't look for the opportunities where it needs to be. But a lot of times it hasn't, you know, it doesn't make or break the company either.
Yeah, like your first step in your disciplinary is usually your verbal, and giving verbal doesn't mean that you just say something to them and then don't write it down anywhere. And it doesn't mean when you write it down that it's a written one. You don't hand that to them. You just want to document somewhere on your personal records for memory that, yeah, you know, I gave this guy a verbal warning, like, you know, start wearing your hard hat, or, you know, whatever that verbal warning would be. But I would think that that one's probably a pretty frequent one to be given. Okay, next question. Do I have to upload, oh, sorry, we already did this one. Done. Okay, sorry about that. Do auditors block sample everything, or do we have to upload everything for the last 3 years?
I can start with that, and anybody can add in after. For a recertification audit, we won't be asking for 3 years worth of documentation. That's quite excessive. We are saying 12 months. So since the last internal audit is what we'd be looking for. And then the block sampling would come in with discussions through your advisor and mostly the auditor, depending on what type of work the company does, how many, say, hazard assessments or maintenance equipment inspections are on file. If that's an excessive amount, then they'll discuss the option of doing some block sampling, either by a date range, seeing how many you do per day, and kind of making a decision from there. So that's kind of a case-by-case basis, depending on what the company does and how much paperwork they have.
Okay, thanks, Lori.
I can add to that as well. One more thing. And for companies that are starting to upload your documentation now, if you're just starting the process and you are, this is not your external, this is your baseline, and you are just starting out, it's a good idea just to get in the habit of uploading all your documentation as you go. Then you don't have to worry about that, just have it organized. So the block sampling obviously would be for very large companies, but if you're just starting out and you just get in the habit of uploading everything, it becomes a lot easier as time goes. And then even grabbing the block sampling and just pulling a couple files makes it easier too. So it's encouraged to start uploading, get in that process of uploading your documents as much as possible. And later on, they'll make that a little more easier as well.
Okay, great, thanks. Next question. Do we have to buy a special program to upload this stuff?
No purchase necessary. We'll give you access to the FTP site, and then no charge with that. You upload, we'll give you access. We're trying about 4 to 6 weeks ahead of the audit to give you access, so lots of time to upload. And like Joanne mentioned, if you start ahead of the game, even before the audit's booked, having your documentation digital, then that upload part will be a lot easier for you. And then I guess the second part to that is with the teams, when the auditor connects with the company to do the remote part of the audit through Teams, there's no purchase necessary for that. They just have to connect to the auditor through a link. So they don't have to purchase Teams or switch from what they're currently using within their company.
I've heard with just going with Teams there is, I believe, an app for your phone that's necessary. But I mean, again, there's no cost involved at all with that. It's just a matter of almost accepting an invite for the ease of it, kind of like the Zoom stuff going on here. So next question. We've answered this a few times, but I'm going to bring it up because I think it's important to repeat, is if we have to change something on the FTP, then would we have to delete it and entirely and re-upload it?
I was going to say, I think Joanne did cover that quite a bit already, and then Steve reiterated it, but yeah, so you wouldn't be able to delete anything or relabel it or change it. So if you did have to, if you made a mistake and you wanted to upload something new, label that correctly and have it in the system. You could also touch base with your advisor and your auditor. There could be something maybe in the back end that we can delete to just less confusion, that kind of thing. If you're concerned about that, we can probably do some deleting on our back end of it.
Yeah, just to reiterate, is just, yeah, it's a one-way street. You bring it in there, and then beyond that, you would have to get a hold of somebody if it's really important to delete something that was not meant to be in there. Next, what is the difference between a safety meeting and an OHC meeting?
I'm going to answer this one. Okay, so the difference between a safety meeting and an OHC meeting. OHC is your committee. They're going to come together. It's going to be marked in your manual how often you guys get together. You guys are going to record that stuff. But that's you guys coming as a committee. And then as a safety meeting, that's a meeting that, I don't know, it takes like a half an hour or whatever. But the message behind a safety meeting is a corporate message, a message for everybody in the part or in the company. So if you're having a safety meeting, the information you're giving in that safety meeting is going to be for everyone. And if you're having an OHC meeting, that's going to be your committee getting together and talking about your health and safety issues or lack of, hopefully, for that meeting. So there is quite the difference.
Okay, great. Next question, it will be, I'm really old school. Everything I do is on paper. Can't I just mail this documentation to the SCSA to review instead of all this computer stuff?
At this point, we don't have much staff at the offices to be accepting that mail. The auditors are all working from home, so we would not be having people mail things to personal addresses and such things. So this will be the process until further notice. We will be using the remote auditing and having the companies upload. That's why we're trying to give as much support and notice as we can to assist the companies and guide them in the right direction to have a successful audit.
I actually consider myself to be a little bit old school too. So when we were this work at home and learning teams and all this stuff felt a little overwhelming at the start, but you know, it's once you do it and get into it, you're just like, wow, this is actually way easier. This makes life easier on a bunch of different levels. So for all that old paperwork stuff, to get it on file, you're going to see a lot of benefits. So, you know, if you feel overwhelmed with it off the start, you know, feel free to get a hold of any one of your advisors. And it's, you know, you take that first step, then you take that second step, and next thing you know, you're online, and you won't be back to that, the paper way of doing things, I'm pretty sure. Okay, so next question here is, I need to submit my documents and I have your hazard assessments book. Can I just drop off all my books, or do I have to pull them apart?
Yeah, kind of along the same lines as the previous question. We're not accepting any of the paper documentation to be mailed in or dropped off. We do have a digital form of our hazard assessment booklet on the website. That could be something that the companies could consider doing them individually, so that they could maybe scan them more in batches rather than having to take those booklets apart. But yeah, unfortunately, that might have to be, again, with the block sampling that they could possibly discuss with the auditor, that would reduce the amount of any of those booklets that they may have to take apart to scan. Any other suggestions?
Yeah, actually, I have one member in my region that he actually, you know, it was a great suggestion, because there's lots of apps out there that turns your camera on your phone into a scanner for PDF. So instead of taking that book apart, you just pretty much take a picture of it. It automatically turns it into a PDF document right on your phone, and then you can. That is another way to do it, instead of taking those forms apart. You know, like, you know, I get it. You want your 3 sorts of copies there, but yeah, just to get it done that way, it's a great way to scan documents. So, and there's lots of different, like I said, apps out there that will do that PDF documentation. All right. Okay, next question here. I took the auditor course. Should I wait to submit my self-audit when my company's internal audit is due later this year?
I'll take this one again. 2 questions. Here's my lucky day. As far as your self-audit, that is totally different than your internal. They are 2 different audits. One is to see after your class if you can fill out the audit on your own. The other one is an actual internal audit of your company. So to wait, if the question is, should I wait and then just do my self-audit as my internal and submit that, then the answer would be no. You do have to be an internal auditor before you do an internal audit. So that means that you have to have that self-audit in and corrected, and you have your certificate now of being an internal auditor before you could submit an actual internal audit.
Okay, no, great. Yeah, just that's what I always tell the members too, is your self-audit is just showing that you can do it. An internal audit is an audit on your company. So one's just your proficiency, and the other one, yeah, is your company review. Oh, sorry, flicked off here. How will auditors be doing observations?
I did touch a little bit on that before through using Teams. So they will connect with the company representative, and the company rep would use their phone. The auditor will direct them through the site of what they need to see. They'll have them basically hold up that phone so they can view the workers in their scope of work. They might say, okay, just hold the camera here for 5 minutes, I need to watch. Then they'll direct them around the site where they need to go. Same with items through the location, the office location. They're going to want to see the postings, the extinguishers, first aid kits, all areas like that. So it'll all be using the company rep and have the auditor direct them what they need to see.
And again, you know, if you've never used Teams or something before, you just get a hold of one of the advisors and we can do a practice run on any of that stuff. Sometimes you're on a loud site too, so it's tough to hear. Earbuds are a great idea to connect to that sort of thing with the mics. I use that a lot of times just for what I'm doing. The mic's on there, your earbuds are in, and you're showing, and it's a lot easier to, you know, for you and the auditor to be talking as that's going on. But again, anytime you want to do just a practice run before the audit for any of the observations and interviews, just to make sure everything runs smoothly and it takes less time, then feel free and we will help you through that process or to learn it a little better. Next, can someone help me with this uploading? I'm having some difficulties with my computer.
The answer is yes. So with this, with these audits, the SCSA is assigning an advisor if the company doesn't already have one to help them out with the uploading. So if you have a problem, you will have been CC'd in an email with that advisor. So you can give them a shout at any time and they'll guide you through the process.
Okay, great. Thanks, Karen. With the FTP, can you upload a bunch of files at once, or is it one by one?
I can answer this one, I believe. Lori, you can let me know if there's more to add. I do believe that you can't actually take like a whole bunch of files together. You can go open that file and basically select a bunch of documentation and then transfer over. Lori, is that correct?
Not sure if it has to be selecting individual documents or if you can just select a folder. There is a tab to do a file share selection there so that you don't have to just do one separate document at a time. So it should allow you to either do a folder or a batch of documents.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Will they be going over the FTP uploading in the upcoming auditor course? So there's in the upcoming auditor, you must be taking auditor course here pretty soon, I guess. I'm thinking at Adam.
Yeah, it must be. That's a really good idea. And no, but you know what? Maybe it's something that we're going to talk about. Maybe we can do a little quick how-to tutorial on how to upload on FTP website. I don't think we'll be adding it to the course, but it's definitely something that we can consider to add for information, a video or something for you guys to be able to go over before you start uploading. I've written it down as a note here. Stay tuned.
In the meantime, there is an FTP documentation presentation. Like Joanne's organization today. Kara's also got one a bit on the FTP uploading process, that sort of thing. Lori sends like a great informational letter, attachment when you are getting ready to do your. So I advise you to read what she sends, and there's lots of information there. And again, you have your advisors to fill in the gray areas in the meantime. Next, my manual is completed. However, I need WMIS before I can submit it. When will WMIS be available? Quite a common question I think we got going on here at the SCSA.
Yeah. All right, so again, I can't give you a date, but what I can tell you is a status. I'm right now working on the tests. I've got 15 questions done already for the test. So it's getting real close is what I'm getting to you. I don't know when the date is. We have to go through an approval process to take a look at it, make sure everything's good before we can offer it. So it's getting really close. So yeah, keep on checking, call your advisors, call SCSA to find out when we'll be offering it.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, we're definitely lots of hard work going on in the background to get this course running. We know how important it is for everybody to get it to run, whether you're going for your NCSO or you need your core. We do understand how important it is, and it's definitely lots of work in the background to get it running. So be patient, it's coming. What is the best way to upload my HAB books online? Can I just use my cell phone? So again, I guess we touched base on that with the availability of cameras and PDF and that sort of stuff. Yes, it is another option to upload for sure. Oh. All right, next, who has access to the FTP site? I don't want other companies looking at our documentation. Can this happen?
No other companies would have access to that. That's why the company is assigned a specific FTP site with a login, and we've chosen FTP, file transfer protocol, because of the security of that. So not unless you give your access to other people.
Okay, great. And actually, Lori, with that, we don't hold on to it. Like, how long do we hold on to that information for?
That's deleted after the audit.
Right. Yeah. So like we simply just need it to verify the audit process. At which time the next time we'll need to see documentation is in your next external audit. And it'll be different documentation that we're looking for at that time anyways, because we want to see your current documentation and your current hazard assessments, not your past ones. And we're hoping that in 3 years that you've probably reviewed and updated your practices and procedures. So yeah, we always just, we want your current version, and we hopefully it's constantly being revised and current. Next question here is, as a company owner, can I use the e-passport to see all the training my workers have? Or do they have to have their own accounts and supply me the information? I guess the answer to that would be is, from my understanding, is that the e-passport is each individual's to have, but if you're training this person and paying for it, that should be your record, and you would get them to make sure that they prove to you that they took the course. So you don't really need access to their e-passport, that's for them, but you should be able to ask your employee for verification that they completed the training that you paid for them to do, as well as, you know, anything that you are wanting them to be competent in. Would that be fair enough, guys?
Also, I believe that we're doing some upgrades to our SCSA app, and there's going to be some e-passport information, or I guess an account possibly being put onto our app. I'm not sure what that looks like for corporate-wise or company-wise, but as an individual, they'll be able to see their e-passport, their certs through there. Possibly, that's what I've been hearing.
The other side to it, Steve, is if you contact us at the SCSA, we do have training records from our training for the association. So if you contact us, we'll be able to tell you what training your employees have taken through us.
Okay, oh, great answers. Next question here. Do I have to transfer all my files to the FTP if I have site docs?
I can answer that. I do believe we talked about that in the presentation as well. If you have site docs, you don't have to upload those same documentations. Again, if they're already digital, you just need to give the auditor access to those files.
Yeah, so there might be they might be incomplete what you have in site docs, or doesn't cover every category. So those missing pieces would need to be uploaded. But as far as what you already have uploaded on site docs, simply giving access to site docs is sufficient for those particular documents. If I have everything electronically already, does it have to be put into FTP? Okay, so we just basically answered that question with that one. So we said site docs because that was the question in the previous one, but really any web-based version of your documentation. Do you have a YouTube channel? Are demos on there? We want demos, but can't get an advisor to come out yet.
Okay,
We have taken, oh, sorry, Joanne.
go ahead, Karen.
So we have videoed some of our demonstrations, not all of them as of yet. We do hope to get back on site and be able to do them in the future. But as of right now, the demos themselves aren't on YouTube, but if you were to contact an advisor, they will happily share and screen share the demonstration with you and then expand on the topic afterwards as part of your regular toolbox talks or safety meetings.
Okay, and yeah, just to piggyback on what Kieran said, I actually did a hard hat head protection demo this morning at 8 o'clock as part of the company's toolbox talk. So definitely just get in contact with us and we will be able to do that through Zoom or Teams, or what platform you're using. And we don't have them all, like Kieran said, but we're hoping to get more and eventually come out again as well. So yeah, just get a hold of the advisor and we'll be happy to help.
Great. I think we're going to have to end with that. And like, yeah, just to reiterate, we like to have an advisor showing those demos because it does come with questions with it. I mean, it's not just a matter of showing the video and getting all the information about your hard hat through that way. It's very complimentary to have an advisor showing it so it can be interactive. There's answer any questions that you may have in regards to it, add a little more to substance to the video. But yes, invite it and we can get her done for you. So with that though, here we are at 1 o'clock already. I want to thank everyone for watching. Thanks for all the panelists for joining and answering questions today. The next Ask the Advisor will be this Thursday at July 2nd. It'll be a little bit of a light one. We're going to actually touch base. There'll be 4 or 5 advisors on the panel, just picking summer safety topics. So we welcome you to join on that one. Just think roads, hydration, or any other sort of topics along the summertime activity fund that you may have. Next Tuesday, we will continue with our auditing sections 8 through 10. So definitely join us for that as we continue our journey through the auditing book for you. Anyway, take care. Have a happy July 1st, and we'll talk to you later.